My name is Jethro. I'm the co-founder and CEO of the Nile Group. We're an online retail business in Australia, providing customers millions of different products. We started the business in 2003. We were pre-SaaS, pre-cloud, and one of the upshots of that is that we were required to build all our own technology, which has enabled us over the many years that we've been operating to be able to pivot and adjust to whatever the market needs were at the time. I think there are three core areas where we've really put a lot of effort in and have developed some great tooling to support that. The first is in terms of scalability of our inventory. We started off with a relatively modest amount of inventory, and we've managed to scale that to millions, tens of millions of different products. And being able to absorb all that inventory and all those data feeds, and then being able to propagate that through a variety of different channels has required some pretty interesting, great tech that we've had to build. Today there are many tools that could do the same thing, but being able to scale requires a high level of automation and removal of manual process, which is essential. Second is that of pricing. Very similar to the approach to inventory, we've created a number of dynamic pricing models, algorithmically based pricing models, which enable us to be able to provide customers with the best possible price conducive to the market conditions at that point. And we continue to develop on that, believing that dynamic pricing is the way forward. And the third area that we have done a lot of work and created some great tools is around fulfillment, around having fulfillment capability close to consumers and close to our supply base at the same time. We have a number of different ways of approaching that, including some virtual supply chains and a diversity of different fulfillment partners. And managing all of that does require some degree of automation and tooling. So, again, an area that we continue to grow into and to develop with being able to do product closer to customers and get them into their hands faster. We're at a tipping point in a number of areas of technology at the moment, which over the next 5 years are likely to manifest some great solutions and improvements in experience for customers. The first one that comes to mind is personalization. Personalization is an area that I think there've been a lot of tools out there, but I don't think they haven't quite delivered to the level of hype that was put out there about them. So I think we're now at a point where the algorithms and the AI are getting smart enough that we should be able to get a very personalized experience across websites for customers. And I think that will become table stakes in the next 5 years. The second is less about one specific set of technology and more around the approach that customers are demanding a unified experience no matter how they interact with your business. So if they're walking into your stores, going onto your website, interacting with you on marketplaces or on social, they expect that you know as much about them as your organization knows, and that their experience should be uniform. So I think that integrating a lot of that is, again, absolutely essential. I think the tools are out there. A lot of companies have already got to this point. So I think this will become a requirement, and the technology will need to support that, and your service agents will need to be able to support that so that the customer has that experience. The third is a bit more pie in the sky, but I think off the back of the supply chain disruptions we've seen over the last few years, and with a lot of manufacturing being unavailable or difficult to obtain, I see a rise in localized manufacturing. This might be very automated, it might be sort of built on demand, but I suspect that we will start to see more and more product being produced closer to customers, generally in market. And I think that's very exciting, especially if we can configure some supply chains which support that. The first thing to think about is that online retail, despite the pullback that we've seen in the last 12 months, has been on a one-way trajectory, which is upwards and to the right for 20 years. The short, we had an amazing boost over the course of the COVID experience for 2 years, but that trajectory is still on track. And I think it will be more gradual than it has been in the last couple of years, but it's definitely not going anywhere. The inflation environment that we find ourselves in doesn't deter from that. I think if anything, recessionary environments we might be going into, and we saw in the GFC, typically have tended to favor online because consumers will become much more price sensitive, and it's probably less so the fact now than it was back then, but there are still great deals online and the ability to be able to leverage it. So I think there will be a challenging environment in front of us, but I'm hopeful that consumers will lean more heavily into their online buying. We will see that trend continue. Trends that we're seeing in recent times, some of them are new, majorities are growing up old ones. I think the most interesting trend that we've seen over the last few years is the rise of sales events. And the one that comes to mind mostly in Australia is the Black Friday, Cyber Monday period, so the 4 to 6 day period, which has become the largest sales event that we see all year round. And interestingly, to the extent that it's pulled back a large number of purchases from December that used to be the Christmas peak back into the late November. And I think that this is only going to grow. This wasn't the first event globally. I think the Chinese Singles Day, 11/11, and some of the other markets have all got something similar. And all of them are growing in intensity and scale. So as a retailer, I think it's absolutely something we need to lean into heavily and to continue to grow and to provide customers what they're looking for, because that's when they're out shopping at their peak. The second thing is convenience and speed. During the period of COVID, the peak of COVID, we really struggled to get customers product on a quick basis. A lot of the carriers were very overwhelmed. Just in general, the supply chains were overwhelmed. Whereas today, that's not the case, and consumer demand for fast delivery is growing ever exponentially. So I think that is definitely another trend that we're seeing, and that's not going to go anywhere. And the third thing is, as we move into a more recessionary environment, if it does happen, we are seeing a little bit, and we expect to see more of a move towards more essential spend rather than discretionary spending. And so having to pivot a product set towards that becomes more important. We have seen an absolute proliferation of marketplaces over the course of the last couple of years, something like we've never seen before. We've still got your established dominant players of eBay and Amazon, but today there are tens and tens of new marketplaces starting up all the time. And I think it's a wonderful thing. I think from a retailer marketplace traders perspective, which we are, it gives us access to a wide variety of new audiences that we haven't had the opportunity to sell to in the past. I don't necessarily think all these marketplaces are going to survive in their current iteration, but I think there will be a wide variety of new options that don't exist from a retailer's perspective in terms of being able to access new audiences. So I can only imagine that every instance of every new marketplace, for those that survive and manage to thrive, will be good for the entire ecosystem. I'm looking forward to ETEL. ETEL is the first conference of the year, and I'm really excited to see what people have to say about the last 12 months, and certainly as to what people are predicting going forwards. So really looking forward to it, and hope to see you all there.